Hi, so this is Robert Rubin from Proceed, and today I'm delighted to be joined by my colleague Tibor from T-Systems. So Tibor, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, Robert. Thanks a lot. Tibor Kosche, responsible for the MAS offering, Managed Application Retirement. It's an offering dealing with post-product systems and retaining the data accessible for long periods of times. Working for T-Systems for quite a while now, and happy to be here for this interview, even though it's just virtual.
You mentioned Mars. Can you just tell us a little bit more about what Mars is and how it's going?
Yeah, so as I said, MAS, Managed Application Retirement Services, is an offering we developed in the past because we were encountering issues as being one of the biggest or bigger hostess in this industry, that we always had the challenge to manage quite old applications, post-productive applications, as I like to call them, so applications that are just used for lookup purposes, which are not used on a regular basis anymore. So those applications also don't create or change any more data. It just stays as it is. And for compliance reasons, it's fairly important that the data stays as it is. So we were forced with the challenge that we had to maintain those old applications, which were mostly out of maintenance, where we would need new infrastructure, where we would need new operating system, new databases. And then that would ultimately cause an upgrade in the system, which would be fairly expensive and no customer wanted to do. So they just ask us, hey, operate those systems as they are, keep them alive so we can have a look into those once we need them. Keeping the systems as they are was not really the answer to it. So we were thinking, it's like, so what is actually necessary from a compliance perspective, from an information perspective? And the answer is that keeping the data is the most relevant part. And also from a legislation point of view, keeping the data is relevant. The data has to be unchanged. The data has to be accessible electronically, the way it was created. And it has to be accessible in a logical way, where how the source system or the application it is stored in can show it and present it to anybody who's looking into it. May it be a user from or customer from the customer, or may it be somebody from the finance authorities, may it be an auditor. We decided that one solution would be if we would just take the data, which is the most relevant piece, store the data in a different application, which is more generic and which would also allow retrieval of the data in a logical way, in the same logical way it was in the source system, but with a generic system. That would give us the chance that we could take data from multiple systems, put it onto one application/platform, because within that platform you should be able to keep data from several 10, 20, 30 or hundreds of applications, and make it accessible from there, so we could get rid of those old applications for our customers. We wouldn't need to host them. We would reduce lots of costs, because those applications also come with lots of costs. It's not only the infrastructure that occurs cost, that can be reduced to a bare minimum, but looking at the licenses, the additional out of maintenance fees, if you need maintenance, then updating the application as far as possible, database licenses, just naming Oracle here, Oracle not being very cheap. So therefore we decided we wanted to work and use a platform that allows us to keep the data, keep it in a logical way, be able to present it in a logical way, and get rid of the application and have something that we can maintain standardized for long periods of time and allow our customers to use the data, because that's the core of what they need. It's not the source, the old application, it's the data and being able to retrieve that in a logical manner.
Yeah, it's very interesting, Tibor, because we came to a very similar conclusion. You know, we've been doing projects with data management for 20 years with customers around the archiving and decommissioning of systems, and these are the sorts of challenges that customers come across all the time. The reason we're talking to you today is because we recognized these challenges 2 years ago. We started to develop the Proceed Cella product that we announced back in June, and we're very pleased to say that you've been one of the first organizations to take that product. So do you want to tell us a little bit about how that fits with the requirements that you've just outlined, and why you did indeed select it.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, we are also very pleased that we could start this cooperation with you. Has been working very well so far. And yeah, why did we choose Cella? So first of all, Cella fulfilled our baseline requirements. We could store data and we could retrieve it in a logical manner as we were able to retrieve it from the source application. So that was the basis for all our actions. What the other aspects we looked at were that we also want a solution that is not only purpose-built for what I just described in terms of being able to shut down the application on the one hand, the old application, and keep the data in a neutral or generic environment. That environment should also be easily managed by us as a service provider to our customers, because we offer this as software as a service. So it should use as much standard components, which are market standards and market leader standards, as possible. And I think those are just the two criteria you definitely fit with. On the one hand, using the HANA database and the XS tools to operate the tool on top, which is, I mean, one of the latest database technologies, and it's supported by SAP. And we all assume, and I guess we know, that this will be on the market for the next 10, 20, 30 years, plus using Microsoft MS SQL, which is an established standard and will also be there for several years. That we've got the security that there are two big standard providers on the one hand, you using those tools, enabling us to use the tool. Plus, on top of it, we are also concerned about the user experience, and that's also something you addressed. So using Fiori, the Fiori interface.
Let's talk a bit about your customers. What sort of benefits have your customers noticed from moving to this tool?
So for our customers, I mean, the most obvious benefit is the financial aspect. We are able to offer a solution or an environment that is much, much cheaper in operation and maintenance for them than just keeping those old systems. Maybe not if they only have one system, it might be different. But as soon as you go into 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, I mean, most of our customers are big corporates. And when we talk about decommissioning to them, we talk about 10, 20, 30 systems. We've got one customer where we nearly decommissioned 100 systems with more than 100 terabyte of data volume. So that's definitely one aspect. So the pure cost saving, which is a huge driver. On the other hand, besides that cost, I realized in the conversations I had with lots of those people involved from the IT department, also from business side. I'll just pick one example because I think that's the most obvious. I was recently talking to the manager of one data center, and at the end of the meeting, he just took me aside and said, so not so recent, some month ago, before Corona, obviously, but it was, like he took me aside and said, hey, it's like, you know, one thing that is most appealing to me is, obviously, on the one hand, we've got the cost, as I said, but on the other hand, you help me get rid of all those old applications in the data center, which are just collecting dust. I have to take care of. I always have them at the back of my mind that I somehow have to make sure that they are running. It's not our core business anymore. Nobody wants to invest into it. Nobody wants to deal with it, but I have to make sure they run. So you would take a huge burden off me, so a huge load off my shoulders, so I can focus on what's really relevant and don't have to worry about those.
What do you see as coming next? What's next for T-Systems and your use of Cella?
I think what comes next definitely is that we will definitely ramp up more customers. We have a customer baseline which will use Cella, which is using Cella already. There will be more customers to come. My goal is to hit 1 petabyte of managed data very soon. That's my ambition, and grow from there. And I think Cella definitely helps us doing that because it's a very compelling offering. We can go out to our customers now and show them this up-to-date application, standard-based application, which they all like a lot. It makes a big impact. And obviously on our side, we will work on optimizing the service even more, make it more appealing to all different kinds of customers. As I just said it earlier, we are focusing on corporates mainly, but now we also realize that there are smaller companies which like the approach, but only have like one or maybe two systems, but for sure don't have the expenses any big corporate has running those applications. And for them, we are just working on different scenarios, how to make it more financially attractive to them, because that's also one question that always pops up in our conversations with our customers, like how are you going to make sure that you can run this in 30 years? And the answer is, I mean, at the moment, I can't say it's like we're going to use this or that tool because I don't know what's going to happen in 30 years. But for sure, we can say it's like, hey, we've got a partner which bases everything on standards with future-oriented company. But on the other hand, they build everything so flexible that it's easy to exchange different components and just plug and play. Take one out, put another one in, and the service keeps on running and is still going to be available in the future. And I think that is the biggest challenge we are looking into, and I think the biggest topic to be addressed, always being compatible with the most up-to-date technology and having the flexibility to use those components when they are available and make sure that this service is future proof and absolutely solid.
Yeah, perfect, Tibor. Thank you. I think, we do have these discussions with customers. Sometimes they need to retain the data for 7 or 10 years because of tax reasons, but others do need to look much further. As you say, it can be 30, 50 years. So, these are challenging things to think about when we see the world changing in IT in months rather than years. So you're right. That's why we made these decisions to base the whole thing on very much standards-based technology. We have a strong roadmap of developments planned. And as you say, to make sure it's something that's there for the long term. But thank you. I think it's been really interesting to hear your insights and to hear your early experiences with the product. We look forward to working with you going forward with it and with your customers. And thanks again for your time and for sharing what you've shared with us today.
Robert, more than welcome. Thanks for having me as a guest, and very much looking for our future cooperation, and all the best.